Hello, Mustangs. Today we are going to be learning another way to solve a quadratic equation. Okay, and remember, solving a quadratic equation just means that we're finding the x-intercepts, also known as finding the zeros or the roots, we call them. And that method that we're going to learn today is called the quadratic formula. So let's jump right in. Yeah, well, first of all, why is the quadratic formula a good method to use? Couple of reasons. It's helpful when the quadratic that you're trying to solve is in standard form. It's also helpful when you have an a value that's not equal to 1. And very importantly, it works every single time. We just need to know how to use it. Okay, so let's jump in and figure out how to use this thing called the quadratic formula. Okay, so here it is. Okay, and it looks big and it looks scary, but as you'll see in just a few slides, it's very easy to use. Okay, and it's just this. Okay, we're solving for the x-intercepts. Okay, so we're looking for x. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. And all of that over 2a. Okay. Well, where are we getting all of these letters from? Well, the a, the b, and the c, they come from the quadratic equation when it's in standard form. Ax squared plus bx plus c. We're going to plug these values into this formula and solve for x. Okay, so first, use the quadratic formula to find the solutions of the quadratic below. Okay, in other words, we're looking for the solutions which are the x-intercepts. Okay, so I've graphed this one for you so that we can see that when we solve for x using our formula, we should get x's equal to 1 and an x equal to 2. Okay, those are our solutions. Okay, so let's plug our a, b, and c values into the formula and see what we get. Okay, now recall, our a value in this case is going to be 2, our b value is going to be a negative 6, and our c value is going to be a 4. Okay, so here's our formula. So we have negative b. Okay, so negative 6 plus or minus the square root of negative b, or I'm sorry, of the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. Okay, square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. All of that over 2 times a. Okay, so when we're working through these problems, you will definitely need your calculator because you're going to have to take a square root. Okay, and your square roots won't always come out to be whole numbers. You're going to see some decimals here. Okay, so I highly recommend that you find your calculator. Make sure that you can operate the square root key. Okay, let's go ahead and solve. Okay, so we're going to say x is equal to, well, a negative 6 gives us a positive 6. Okay, plus or minus negative 6 squared is a positive 36. And then minus 4 times 2 times 4, which is 32. Okay, so underneath our radical sign, underneath the square root sign, we have 36 minus 32. And all of this is over 4, or 2 times 2 there. Okay, so now it's just a matter of simplifying. Okay, so we have x is equal to 6 plus or minus the square root of 4. Right? 36 minus 32 is 4. Okay, over 4. Simplifying again, we have 6 plus or minus 2. The square root of 4 is 2. All of that over 4. Okay. Okay, So at this point, you notice we have a plus or minus. Well, if you recall back a few units ago, this means that we're going to have two separate equations to set up. We're going to have 6 plus 2 over 4, and then we're also going to have 6 minus 2 over 4, and we're going to simplify down. Okay, so 6 plus 2 is 8 over 4 equals 2. 6 minus 2 is 4 over 4, and 4 over 4 equals 1. So those are our solutions, 2 and 1. And looking at our graph, that's exactly what we should have calculated. Okay, the x-intercept is at 2 and the x-intercept is at 1. Okay, that was our first example. We're going to go through another one. Okay, so here's one where we are going to run into solutions that are decimals, not whole numbers. Okay, so our equation is 3x squared minus 10x plus 6 equals 0. It should be at equals 0 there. Okay. Okay, so our a value is 3, our b value is negative 10, and our c value is 6. Okay, we're going to plug those values into our formula here. Okay, so x is going to equal negative b. B is a negative 10, so negative negative 10 plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c. Okay, and all of that over 2 times the a value. Okay, so now it's just a matter of simplifying. So x equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 minus 72. All of that over 6. Okay, so doing what's underneath the radical sign. 100 minus 72 gives us a 28 underneath the radical sign. Okay, so we have 10 plus or minus the square root of 28 over 6. Simplifying, when we take the square root of 28, it's not going to be a nice round number. Okay, so it comes out to be 5.29 something. Okay, it continues on, but I rounded off to the hundredths place here. Okay, so I rounded to 5.29. So we have x is equal to 10 plus or minus 5.29 over 6. Okay, so now we have to separate out our two different equations. We have 10 plus 5.29 over 6, and we have 10 minus 5.29 over 6. Okay, so we have 15.29 over 6, which equals 2.54. And we have 10 minus 5.29 over 6, and that will equal 0.785. Okay, now remember, since I rounded off here at the 5.29, these are approximate values, approximate numbers. They're close, but not exact. Okay, so if we scroll back up here and we take a quick peek at our graph, okay, we had x-intercepts at 2.549. Okay, so that would be this one here. And we had an x-intercept at 0.785. Okay, and we got that one right there. Okay, so you can see that you're definitely going to need your calculator for these. Okay, let's take a look at another one. So this one, there is a case where we can actually have no solutions. Okay, and you'll recall when we were talking about quadratics earlier, okay, if the quadratic equation creates a parabola that does not cross the x-axis, okay, there are no x-intercepts, then we have no solutions. Okay. Okay, so let's look at this one. We have 2x squared plus 7x plus 8 equals 0. So I put all of my a, b, and c values into our formula. Okay, so negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times 8 over 2 times 2. Okay, so we're going to simplify down. We have x equals -7 plus or minus 49 minus 64, okay, and that's the square root, over 4. Okay, well, we run into a situation here where we have -7 plus or minus the square root of -15, right? 49 minus 64 gives us a -15, okay, over 4. Well, we can't take the square root of a negative number. Okay? If you recall, we can't do that. So that means that there are no solutions. Okay? Our parabola does not cross the x-axis. Okay? All righty, last example. Okay. So here's a case where we have -4x squared and we don't have an x term here. We have -4x squared plus 2. Okay, so we have an a value, which is -4. We have a c value, which is 2, but we actually do have a b value. Would be like having a 0x in between the 4x squared and the 2. Okay, so our b value is actually a 0. Okay? And then we're going to plug those into our formula just as we did before. Okay, so x equals -0 plus or minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4 times -4 times 2, all over 2 times -4. Okay. So simplifying, 0 plus or minus the square root of 0 minus a -32 over -8. And then simplifying more, 0 plus or minus the square root of a +32 over -8 equals 0 plus or minus 5.66 over -8. Okay? And now we're going to convert this into two separate equations now. So we have x is equal to 0 plus 5.66 over -8. And we have x is equal to 0 minus 5.66 over -8. Okay? You'll see here that we get a negative 0.707 and we get a positive 0.707. And looking at our graph, that's exactly what we should have gotten. Okay, so this is called the quadratic formula, another way to solve quadratic equations. So good luck. If you have questions, make sure that you ask your teacher.